Hi, I'm Pam Hosel, and this is the Dear Rockstar podcast and videos. When I started Dear Rockstar, what I really wanted to do was talk to people that were designing lives of purpose, passion, and meaning, and crafting and navigating their own unique paths, a meaningful life, and starting things. So today, I'm psyched to get to spend time with Brent Henderson. Brent is a rock star. He started his first venture in college. Right? I mean, there could be, I'm afraid there might be some startups prior to the ones I know about. He's a serial entrepreneur, but even more importantly, he's a young man that is courageously designing his own path. Thanks for coming out today, Brent.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so the question I get asked by starters all the time is, how did you start? Can you take us back to the very beginning, the idea, and walk us through your first startup?
So the first failed startup, because I think there is one that I might not have ever told you about. I'm not sure. I think growing up, I've always had somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit. I used to play a lot of video games, and so during some of those video games, there were portions that had to do with business that I always really enjoyed, such as Sim Theme Park. You build a theme park, you set your prices, you decide how much salt you want the fries to have to increase customer happiness, and so I actually enjoyed doing that. I was like taking out loans, for the theme park to grow it and stuff, without really understanding that I was actually running a business.
Fascinating. So your first startup was simulated inside Sims.
Yeah, and there was a lot of room for failure with that. So. So inside Sim Theme Park and Sim City would be similar. I didn't really play that one, but so that was probably the first time that I really started to build like my business knowledge.
And what was it in that game that started to capture you or like pulled you in?
I think part of it was that it was a game. It was fun. So, part of it was building roller coasters, being able to ride the roller coaster that you built, but to get there you had to make money. You had to, create new rides, hire researchers so that you could get to that point of like, building the theme park. And so
so it starts with a simulated game, then what?
So I guess kind of fast forward, I didn't really start any businesses to actually try to make real money until I went to college. I went to UCF, and my main passion when I got to UCF was partying. So that was what I spent.
You and a lot of other 20-year-olds. That is sometimes a passion.
Yeah. So I spent most of my first few years in college doing not very much except getting by with school.
Yeah.
And
all of us parents out there that finance college are going, ah!
Yeah, not what you want to hear, but that's kind of the reality for a lot of people, and so that's all I really knew for the first few years. So after my sophomore year, after 2 years of that, I decided it was time to start getting a little more serious. So I decided to get an internship, and at this time actually let me rewind a little bit. When I first got into college, I was going to do engineering.
Okay, so you came in with sights on making things.
Yeah, well, making money. Making
okay, so your sights were on making money. It wasn't that you didn't want to make anything.
Yeah, well, it was like, as far as what I wanted, I figured that college was a time where I didn't have to do very much, but by the time I graduated, I knew that I wanted to make a lot of money.
Okay.
So I didn't really care what I did in the meantime necessarily, but I wanted a high-paying job, right? I mean, that's what you do. That's what you go to college for, right? At least that's what you're taught. You go to college so that you can get education so that you can get a high-paying job. And so that was kind of the paradigm that I went into college with. And so it was like, all right, if I'm going to go to college to get a job, then I want to get paid the most for being here at the end of it. And engineering sounded like, I was pretty good at math, so engineering sounded interesting to me. So I went to orientation, and they showed the classes that you had to take for each major. And so I got a sheet for the engineering because I was walking around doing the tour for the engineering students. And they had a snake chart of about 27 different classes with calculus and calculus 17 and 18 and whatever. There's just a lot of craziness that went into it. Just didn't look like very much fun. So if I was going to be
for the guy that had been in the bar, this didn't look fun at all.
No.
So then what do? A pivot? We have an iteration here?
It was an immediate pivot. And,
Pivot.
actually at the orientation, before I decided to do that, before I knew I was going to switch, they said they were touring us through the engineering building, and they pointed to the business building, and they said this is what we call the walk of shame. A lot of the engineering students going over to the business school. And so little did I know,
right?
I was going to do later that day. Once
Okay.
I saw that. So I immediately switched to business without even getting into engineering.
Okay.
And I think that was a good decision. So I was just kind of doing general business. So then fast forwarding to the end of my sophomore year when I wanted the internship, I was between finance and accounting. Those were kind of the most high paying like business majors. So I'm still thinking about.
So you still got this lens. It's all about money. So you go to take your internship. What happened?
Yeah. And so I went to the internship, and it was kind of a 9-to-5 type internship, and it was a typical intern job, like the stereotypical putting numbers in spreadsheets, scanning receipts, doing calling clients that were late on payments, like doing all the stuff that no one else wants to do.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't a very pleasant experience. It was a great company. They were
Right.
fast growing, so I have nothing bad to say about the company, but the experience of having a corporate job in general
Yeah.
was really very uncomfortable for me, and it
was informative.
It was a good
Because
experience.
that pain then led you where?
To realizing that there had to be another way. I couldn't do.
It's not going to be engineering, and it's not going to be sitting in a cubicle.
Yeah, so both of those experiences allowed me to look for alternative ways.
But see, I think that's what's so important. I think if you don't get out there and have the experience, how can you know if it's going to fit or if it's going to align? And how's it going to make your soul feel, right?
Yeah.
So then what?
So I had the internship, and towards the end of it, I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know if there were any other options. I thought that this might be the only way, because it seemed like everyone who I knew in college, it was just like, this is what you do. You go to college and you get a job, and whether you like that job or not, it's too bad, so you might as well make as much money as you can so you can enjoy your time outside the job.
Interesting paradigm. So, like, when did that belief start in you? Like, and I'm not saying it's just in you, but where do you think that started?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think that, we just hear about it. It's the status quo. It's just why, like, it's why you go to college. And it's like, if you don't go to college, then you're going to be at a big disadvantage of getting those good jobs. And you hear about jobs all over the news, like the job market, how are jobs, and the job market isn't good. So then we feel even more threatened to, like, try to get that degree. If you don't have a degree, then you definitely don't have a chance of getting a job. And so you just hear a lot about jobs and about retirement.
We call this socialization, right? Like, we're getting fed some amount of information that could be accurate and could be really false, depending on the person. So what'd you do then?
So one of my friends, I was telling him about my pain and my difficulties of this internship, and trying to, like, find out if there's any other thing I can do with my life. And even though my dad is an entrepreneur and there's been a lot of entrepreneurship in my family, my parents didn't necessarily, they kind of let me do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Instead of maybe showing me the benefits of entrepreneurship. They kind of maybe let me fall into that, maybe intentionally, maybe
Right.
letting me have those experiences so that I could ultimately do. I think that their goal was to just let me do what it is that I wanted to do, and they weren't going to tell me what to do.
Well, wow, what a gift to you, right?
Yeah.
So they're not overly managing your journey. So you talk to your friend, and then what happens?
So he introduced me to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and so
Guy
that
Code.
was and I hated reading for my whole life until my girlfriend, my freshman year in college, made me read a book. It was Angels and Demons by Dan Brown.
Yeah.
So she was pretty persistent about that, and so I kind of read it with her, and I actually enjoyed it a lot. So that gave me hope that reading maybe isn't so bad, because it was something I actually
right?
enjoyed.
Like, we have all these beliefs, but we haven't even done it really, right? So
Right,
you're
yeah.
reading. Okay, so then
Which
you
was
read.
a really important experience too, because then I might not have given Rich Dad Poor Dad the time of day to give that a chance to read. because it would have been like, I just hate reading books. Like, that's not, I can't even take that path. So that door wouldn't have even maybe been open to me.
Yeah, and I think that's how we fall into experiential poverty. Like, we decide, it's like we're making up all these decisions and doors just close. It's one thing when the resources aren't there, but don't even open the door. So you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What happens then?
So that taught me what it meant, what financial...
Matter of fact, I got to share this story. I made my kids play that game Cash Flow, and they thought I was crazy. They're like, this is not Monopoly, Mother, and this is not fun.
That's good.
But, right, so you read the book, and then what happens?
And then I played Cash Flow.
And then you played the game.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, what part did you enjoy?
Well, no, I mean the game was fun, but really what the book taught me was about financial freedom, the idea of residual income. And so, whereas...
And there's 4 quadrants, right? He lays out the 4 quadrants.
Yeah, the cash flow quadrant, right? So and I also read that right after I read the cash flow quadrant book, which was a separate book. He also mentioned it in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But, you know, I had always kind of understood life as working until you're 65, and there's not really any other way around that.
You mean getting a job till you're 65?
Well, or even my parents, although entrepreneurs, are still really, you know, putting in a lot of hours to run that business, in their 40s, 50s, and so although they live a great lifestyle now and they can take off a lot of time, which is nice, and I was able to see that as well, but it just never clicked with me that it could, especially in the, you know, looking at the world that we live in, provides that unique opportunity for you to not have to wait till 65 to retire. You can create a lifestyle that brings in residual income, and nothing is limiting your ability to do that or how fast you can do that. And so the idea of residual income at a young age.
So the light bulb comes on about residual income and really economic engines through Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then what?
Well, so when I was reading the book, I had started reading it right towards the end of my internship, and I still didn't like read very many books, but I still gave it a chance.
Yeah.
And so I read it for about 4 or 5 hours. Went to bed at like 2 or 3 a.m. because I was up late reading because it was just really interesting, and then I couldn't fall asleep. So I got back up and I read the rest of it.
The spirit of starting something came into your soul and took over.
It did. It took over. It was a complete takeover.
It was a God thing.
And so I knew right then, after I finished that book, that I had the ability to make a decision for whether I wanted to continue down the lifestyle of the status quo of getting a job.
How old are you? Give us some context. At this point, how old are you?
This was 2010, so I was 20.
So you're 20, and you're all of a sudden seeing it's not just this one path. There's these paths that you haven't been even really talked about, or at least taught about until now.
Yeah, and that was the idea of the book. It's like, you know, he had a rich dad and a poor dad, and he was taught two different things.
I love his stuff.
Yeah.
So then what?
So then I realized that, well, the book talks about real estate, so I got really interested in real estate. Basically, a lot of different light bulbs went off, and so I was like, all of these different possibilities opened up, starting a business, getting into real estate, getting into multi-level marketing, any type of business that can provide residual income, money that's coming in without me having to be there, was what I was going to go after.
See, I think this is fascinating. Everybody's journey happens a little differently. Yours really happened by looking for something you could do that you kind of liked or enjoyed that would make money. The alternative for this job.
I think that a part of me was really lazy too. Honestly,
not anymore though. I've seen you. So you start out lazy.
Well, not that I was late. I was lazy in the sense of I wanted to not have to do the job that I did in that internship. So I want to get out of that, which means that if I can make money, then I'll be able to choose what to do with my time.
Well, I don't know if that's lazy, right? Let's say that we were created to come fully alive, and that our joy is an indicator if we're in the right space. So you go into these spaces where they feel like they're poisoning your heart. I mean, and it's kind of like we were created to go, oh, this isn't the best place for me. right? So I don't know if that's laziness.
Right, I don't think it's lazy.
I think we've been taught, just work harder versus you should come fully alive wherever you invest your time and your talent. That's a different belief.
Yeah, right. So I think it was more so having income come in without me having to be there, so that I can do whatever it is that I want to do. Whether
and that
that's
word is what's that called?
Freedom?
Yeah. Like, can you sing the song? Free. No, I mean, isn't that it? It's like that freedom.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is freedom.
Okay, so then tell us about this first venture that spun out.
So, okay, so first I got invited to a real estate conference that was part of Rich Dad.
Yeah.
His conference was coming to Orlando, so I went to that. It was a 2-day seminar. I got really excited about it. Started reading a lot into entrepreneurship, and then the excitement kind of faded away after a little while. Whether it was I was discouraged about not having money to kind of get started, so I didn't feel like real estate was right for me at that time.
You needed too much cash for this path. So then what?
So then I met somebody at a coffee shop, and he introduced me to a conference, and it ended up being Amway.
Direct sales, multi-level
marketing. And so I went to it, and they talked a lot about everything that I wanted to hear with Rich Dad. They brought that up, and residual income. It was just everything that I wanted to hear. It was shortly after the internship, and after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, so I was like, wow, this is it. This is everything I've wanted and I've been thinking about. So I ended up doing that, and I just kind of ended up realizing that that wasn't for me either.
Wasn't a match with your sweet spot?
Yeah, it was kind of selling to people who were my friends who, it was kind of a short-lived venture. So.
Okay, so that's the second thing. Then what?
So then I decided, so I started to realize that we're living in the age of technology and the information age and having access to the internet. And so I started realizing that was going to be a really appealing, something that no one has ever been able to, it's a tool that no one's ever been able to utilize before to start a business.
Right, so you got into technology. What did you do first?
Well, so I started reading books on how to make money on the internet. I started learning about the internet.
And I just love it. You are so consistent. You consistently came to the conversation of starting something through money. I mean, amen, right? Like, that's just how you did it. Everyone does it different. Okay, so now it's going to be the internet's going to be my mechanism to make money or replace this job that I don't want to go to.
So Think and Grow Rich was the book that I think even took my money ambitions to the next level.
Yeah.
Of like setting big monetary goals and not putting any limitations on that and living the life that I want to. And so at a minimum, I realized that providing my basic costs of living needed to be coming in so that I could.
Okay, so tell me now. Now let's just tell me about Party Tutor, starting Party Tutor, because that was one of your first successful, and then that led to Zupp. So tell me a little bit about how you started Party Tutor.
Okay, so that semester, right after the internship, it was time, the multi-level marketing company faded, and I made a decision that I was going to start a business before I graduated college.
Okay.
So that was important. I didn't come up with a good idea. I came up with a lot of stupid ideas, and then the next spring semester, at the beginning of the semester, I was in my fraternity house, and me and some friends were sitting around wondering, where we were going to go that night. So I'm still partying a lot during this time, even though I'm starting to get a lot more ambitious. And so we were texting bartenders, checking Facebook pages to find out what was happening. And then it hit me, since I've been studying about the internet and mobile apps and technology, and I realized that we were using technology to find this answer to this problem of where should we go tonight.
Yeah.
And I realized that there was a much better way to do it, which was centralizing all of that information into one platform.
So how did you start? You had the idea that night. Then what?
So I was extremely excited. Definitely an epiphany moment. I knew that it was the business that I wanted to start because it was something that
you knew that
I was.
Here or?
Well, I don't know. It was just I was extremely excited about it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And the next morning I was waking up at 7 a.m. without an alarm, whereas previously I was sleeping until 1 p.m.
Okay.
So it was drastic.
It's there.
Yeah.
So how'd you start it? Did you you ask someone to code it? What did you do?
So I didn't know anything about building websites. I'd just been learning that you can, ways to make money with websites. And so I talked to a friend who had started a website, and he referred me to his developer, and I was just moving fast. I thought that it was the best idea in the world, and that it needed to, get launched ASAP and expand quickly. And
So
it was
you went right into product development.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very, very little customer discovery. It was like, I can't tell anyone about this idea. This is the best idea in the world.
So
very
you were
common.
one of those, right?
I was definitely one of those.
Everyone's going to steal your idea.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was very scared to talk to people about it.
So you start developing.
So I developed it. It was actually a country in Nepal was the team that I hired to build the website. Launched it in the summer just before my senior year. Got it going, and then it had about 50 people per day using it, so it was not bad, but knew I needed it to grow quicker, so I built an app. That was kind of what I felt like needed to happen next. So I hired a team in India to build the app.
How did you find these teams? Nepal, India?
Nepal was just a connection from my friend.
Okay.
India, I used Elance, the freelance website.
Okay, so you went through Elance.
Yeah, so
okay.
I got about 19 different bids. For my parents let me borrow $5,000 to start this business.
Okay, so we had the bank of the parents for the first $5,000. Okay.
And so I used that money to build the website and then to build the apps.
Okay.
So I did all that for $5,000, and I did the marketing, just kind of very guerrilla marketing techniques, posting like flyers on stairwells around campus.
And the app, tell people, so what does Party Tutor do?
So Party Tutor helps people discover what's happening around campus, including drink specials, food specials, apartments, and it's pretty much the whole college experience wrapped up into one easy-to-use app.
Okay, so once you launched the app, how big did the app go?
So it doubled, the traffic doubled every semester for about 5 semesters.
Okay.
So
up to how many downloads?
It's still running right now, and it has been downloaded over 80,000 times. So.
Okay, so downloaded over 80,000, and then how did this business monetize? So the students were using it to find where they wanted to go at night. How did it make you any money?
So for the first year, I was just updating just to provide that service for people in hopes that someday it would make money. And I didn't really know how it would make money. I just figured 800 people I think will use this every day at UCF once it's really popular.
Yep.
And I think that bars would be willing to pay to be on here, to be listed higher for premium services. So
the whole first year, you're just driving users, not making any money.
Yeah,
figuring
only a couple $100 from small clients. And then, so after I had a year and I knew that when I started the business, I had a year and a half left to get it making money. Otherwise, I would have to get a job or
So we call that we kind of like have this statement of cash flow. You were going to run out of money here.
Yeah.
Your burn rate was such that you're going to run out of money here.
Yeah.
So how did it start making money?
So the last semester, it was only going into the semester, it was only making about $300 a month, and I needed at least $1,500 a month.
Right.
And so it was an interesting time because a lot of the bars were closing down and moving at UCF, so a lot of dynamics were changing. So this was like my opportunity to start charging the bars, whereas they'd been free up until this point.
Okay.
And so I walked into a bar that was just opening, and I knew that it was really important for me to get this bar, or else this business, it was going to be over probably.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to be able to make money with it. So I told them that it was going to cost $250 a month to be on the app to promote their venue. And they said that they were fine and they didn't need it. And so I wasn't able to sell them on it, and they ended up opening up. And so I still continued, still not knowing how I was going to bring in the money. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me and said that they weren't doing so well, and they asked me to come in.
Yes.
Yeah. So I knew that this was another opportunity that I had, and I needed to capture it. So I came in there, and they tried to bribe me with free drinks and free cover and trade
happens
trade
to
promotions.
All college student, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll do everything but pay you.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that there was nothing I needed more than the cash. So so I was able to put my foot down. If I didn't put my foot down, then I might not be here talking about this now.
Yeah, that business would have gone out. So then people started paying you. You started having a service on the back end for bars and restaurants.
Mm-hmm. So I started
buildings.
After that. That was kind of a tipping point where I was able to start charging a lot of other places and apartments. And that semester, the traffic doubled once again. So it really increased the value of the advertising for these businesses. And so I was able to do it full time when I graduated in December 2012. So that 2013 was the first year I was able to do it full time.
Yeah.
And so I reached my goal of being able to pursue the business after college.
Yeah, an entrepreneur that's paying his way, right? You scaled it to a couple different colleges, and now you've started something new. What's your vision? What's in your vision site now? What are you working on now?
Yeah, so Party Tutor is still in existence, but I realized that there are there's only so much potential that Party Tutor has,
Okay.
and for it to scale, it was going to take a lot more time and resources. And the ultimate goal, at least the ultimate vision, has always been to start an app similar to that, but for big cities. So helping people discover what's happening at places around them.
And that's called what?
And that's called Zupp. So Zupp right now is focused on nightlife and entertainment and providing you with real-time information on what's happening so that you can start experiencing more of what your city has to offer.
So interesting, right? You go through this process, there's a metamorphosis. What are the most important lessons you've learned in terms of this journey? Like the guy that you were when you started and the guy you are now. What do you believe about this whole startup thing?
Well, I think that it's extremely rewarding. One of the most rewarding things is being able to decide what I want to do each day. Even though I'm putting in more hours than most of my friends who have the 9-to-5 corporate life, there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made. But the freedom that I still have, even though I'm working hard on building this, and I still have a long way to go to reach what I'm trying to do. But the freedom in being able to choose that I want to go to this coffee shop today, or I want to go to this office today, or I want to call this business. It's totally up to me, and that freedom is something that's really that I really appreciate.
Yeah. How do you define your purpose right now? What's your cause?
So I was a big partier, as I mentioned, in college, and
I'm surprised you didn't open a bar, right?
yeah, I could have been on that path.
Nothing wrong with that. No judgment.
So I was a big partier. I would go out and drink 6-7 nights a week, drink so much that I wouldn't even remember what happened.
So now?
And now I realize that those things weren't very fulfilling, going out and partying, and you don't feel so good the next day, you know?
What's fulfilling to you now?
So I think just ultimately a lot of it comes down to adding value. And I think that Zupp is something that I can't not do. I love
that. Can't not do it.
Yeah, it's like because I have a lot of other business ideas, and I know that I could do really well with some of them.
Yeah.
But I can't. Nothing can take me away from this business because
you can't not do it.
Yeah.
And how does it sync up with your purpose? Because there's the business, and you see ways it can monetize and make money. But how is it syncing up with your purpose? Why you're on the planet? Who you are?
I think that I have, especially with my experiences of growing Party Tutor, it put me in a place where when I had the idea to kind of to start Zupp and to instead of growing Party Tutor to new schools, to instead start Zupp, it was kind of a moment. It was a decision where I was in a position to use everything that I've learned in my experiences of both who I was with going out and drinking a lot,
right,
and finding out that wasn't the most fulfilling thing for me, to starting a new business that would allow people to maybe experience other things besides going to the bars and drinking. Although, not that those things are inherently bad at all, I still do some of that still, but I'm passionate about giving people an opportunity to find other experiences that might shed some light on what they really enjoy doing.
Okay, so what inspires you?
What inspires me? Well, I know I'm starting to make a list of all the things that when people use the app, I have a list of testimonials of people who have it's changed something in their life, or it's allowed them to do something that they wouldn't have otherwise done. And
so people's feedback inspires you?
That's something that really inspires me.
What do you believe now about this whole thing of making your own path, designing your own life, finding your way?
Well, I think that the experiences and the bad experiences lead you to a place that you were designed to go. I think that...
do you believe we each have a purpose?
Yeah, definitely. I think that we are all completely unique and have unique purposes, have unique gifts, unique talents, unique weaknesses too. And so it's something that I'm doing more and more every day is trying to become more self-aware of who I am, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and trying to find my blind spots so that I can be honest with myself about those.
Wow.
And
Self-awareness. So when you look back at your younger self, because you're still really young and you're on your multiple, venture and doing something new, what would you say to your 20-year-old self?
well, I was very lost, and I was very different than I was now. Very, very unself-aware, very unself-aware of.
So what would you say?
I would say to. What would I say? I would say to kind of find yourself, like not do what it is that other people tell you should do. Be honest with yourself. Like learn who you are and who you're created to be, and what you're good at and not good at, so that you can align your life both in your career and in your personal life, and have those all mesh into one.
Wow. So what's the best part about your life now?
The best part is building something. Zupp is the biggest goal, that building Zupp into what I would like it to become is the biggest goal that I can ever dream of.
Wow.
And so with all these other business ideas, there's no bigger problem that I think I can be solving. And I think that with my life experiences, I've been equipped in a unique way to be able to have an opportunity to accomplish that. So even with things that, even with my experience of wasting a lot of time in college, going out and drinking, it ended up not being a waste because it allowed me to see things from a different perspective. That gives me an advantage in this business now.
Wow. Okay, so we can find you online at Zupp. How
Zupp,
do we find you?
Zupp Orlando is
Zupp Orlando.
Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there one thing that you would say to someone that's kind of on the edge of thinking about starting something, and they're kind of going back and forth, deciding if this is right for them or if they can do it?
Yeah, well, I'm someone who has had a lot of self-doubt, so I can definitely speak to that, because I have had a lot of ups and downs with my inspiration and my motivation and my passion.
You mean it's not always a good day,
Oh,
right?
Definitely not. I mean, even some days I'll be like, there's no way that this is not going to be successful. There's absolutely no way that everything's going to happen the way I want it to. And then a couple hours later, I'll hear something and I'll be like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. There's no way that I'll be able to do this. It's definitely a roller coaster every day. So that's what you're getting into with entrepreneurship. But the highs, I think, are much higher than the lows are. And one thing I've really learned is that when you take that plunge into entrepreneurship, the longer you're in that game, the more accelerated whatever it is you do in the rest of your life will be.
Wow. Especially
in entrepreneurship. So you can fail with a venture, but your next venture will be so much more accelerated because of what you've learned, the fails.
Learning.
So I've had so many failures in Party Tutor. Fortunately, it didn't fail so much that I lost the money to continue doing it.
Right.
But all the times I've failed in hiring developers, in sales, in marketing, in hiring people, allow me to do it better next time.
Because it was really learning. It was learning that allowed you to do it.
Learning
different
by
and
doing.
better, right?
Learning by doing is the best way to learn by far.
With that, thank you for your time.
Thanks
We're
for having
excited
me.
to see how Zupp goes from Zupp Orlando to maybe bigger places,
Oh, yeah.
and to see your impact. And it's exciting to hear about how, your lens was to make a lot of money, and now I hear you talking about making a lot of impact. Mm-hmm. And contributing and working on a problem. I love that you said working on the biggest problem I can imagine. Wow, what if we all attack life like that? Thank you, Brent Henderson with Party Tutor and Zupp, inspiring us to make lives of meaning, passion, and purpose. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.